Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's QuickBooks Quarterly Update with Murph and Liz Scott, hosted by Insightful Accountant. If you have any questions during today's session, please enter them in the Q&A box, and we'll try to address them. Everyone will receive a follow-up email later today with the recording and presentation. Let me introduce our QB Talks host, William Bill Murphy, better known as Murph, is in charge of all things related to content. Murph is an advanced certified QuickBooks ProAdvisor with over 30 years of consulting experience. For many years, he was the anchor of the National Advisor Network's online forum and three-time consecutive winner of the NAN Online MVP Award. Murph has published articles in numerous industry publications and served as technical editor for business analysis with QuickBooks by Wiley Publishing. Murph, I'll pass it over to you.
All right. I'm going to take over and show my screen one. And now if I can advance that. And, of course, as always, when we do our QBO quarterly update, or QuickBooks quarterly update, I should say, my favorite, Liz Scott, is with me today, and I have the pleasure of introducing her. She is our contributing editor for everything QuickBooks Online, and she is an advanced certified QuickBooks ProAdvisor. She's a member of the Intuit Trainer Writer Network. She's an accounting professional technology consultant. She is one of our top 100, and she also was the, I made a mistake on this slide, the 2020 top trainer, writer, educator, ProAdvisor. And that is an error there. And no, you can't win it 2 years in a row. So that's just an error, my typo. But Liz is the principal of Accounting Lifeline, which is a accounting firm here in the Oklahoma City area. And pretty much ever since I met her, I don't know, I think that's been about 6 years ago, I've been passing to her anything to do with QBO. And then I started passing to her anything to do with QuickBooks because I started getting rid of all my clients. And so I just say, Liz, take this. Liz, take this. Liz, take this. And she does. And she does a wonderful job. Everybody that I send to her, that most people call me and say, oh, Liz is great to work with. And I'm happy that she does. Now, the good news is that those of you who are preparing for the new Top 100, the 2021, and I know it seems like we just finished 2020 because we handed out those awards, but you got to remember, Scaling New Heights was so late in the year, which was quite unusual. And so we started our process right as normal in the middle or towards late December, and nominations are open. And actually they close a week from today. They're scheduled to close a week from today. And if you haven't gotten your nomination in, you need to get your nomination in. And there's nothing wrong with nominating yourself. But the people over at ADP said, hey, Murph, why don't we do a webinar on, how to score the best on the top 100. And I said, that's a wonderful idea. And then they said, why don't we do also a set of companion articles? And so I've been writing every Wednesday a companion article. I started the last week. There was one today, and then there'll be one next week and the following week. And that puts the last one of those four right in line with ending the day prior to this webinar. And it's also right before we open the formal application. And they're designed to teach you how to maximize your performance on the application, because I'm a firm believer that a lot of people don't do as well on the application form simply because they don't take the time to read and understand how to answer the questions. And so I'm trying to give you tips or pointers, or as ADP put it, secrets. And so, Emily, I think you're going to flash up under, either the Q&A or under chat, the link where you can sign up to this webinar. But folks, I certainly encourage you to attend. And we've got some great speakers that are going to participate. Don Brolin, Matthew Fulton, and Caleb Jenkins all have been in our top 100. Don Brolin and Caleb Jenkins, of course, have been categorical winners. Don was the niche, I'll pronounce it that way, niche winner this year, and Caleb was one of our up and comer winners a couple of years ago. And so, we just encourage you to attend. And in the meantime, be sure to read those articles. Here's what we're going to cover today. And this has been outlined for more than 2 weeks in Insightful Accountant, so I'm not going to take time because we've got a lot to cover. And so I'm going to turn it over to Liz and let her take control. And she can begin with the accountant versus business view, and I'll shut up.
Well, thank you. So I just popped into chat the registration link to nominate yourself to or a friend. So I wanted to make sure, being somebody who participated in the program, I am thrilled to be part of it, and I want to make sure that other people get this opportunity too. So like you said, it's ending soon to be able to nominate yourself or a friend, but I threw that link in there, and hopefully everyone will go and nominate themselves or a friend, or a friend, I guess. So I'm going to share my screen. So I think that, Murph, are you currently sharing right now?
Yeah, it looks like he is, Liz, but you should be able to screen share from there.
Just take it away. Okay,
Yep.
Here I go. Let's say, yes, please continue on. So does everybody see my monitor and see today's agenda? Great. Okay, so.
Yes.
All right, fabulous. Well, thank you for that very nice, warm introduction, my very good friend Murph. I appreciate that. Always makes me smile to have an introduction that is performed by you. You're truly, truly just well respected and admired, and my mentor. So you make me smile. Thank you. So continuing on, today we have a ton to cover, and I'm really excited about all of the topics. This webinar is definitely one of my favorites. I work inside of QuickBooks Online every single day. That's really the predominant tool that we use. We have some clients that are still in desktop because that's appropriate for them. And so I don't want to force something on a client if that's not the right choice for them. But for the most part, a lot of our clients are mobile and they've really enjoyed being inside of QuickBooks Online. So this is one of my favorite webinars because there's always so much that's changing. And that is true for today. I get to show some of my favorite features. There's lots of different areas that we will cover here. You can see some of this is going to be QuickBooks Online, some of it's going to be QuickBooks Online Accountant, some of it's going to be QuickBooks Online Advanced, and then also the ecosystem, and also our ProAdvisor program. So there's lots of topics here. And one of them that I'm going to start with is the QuickBooks Online Accountant versus Business View. This has been in play for a few months, and we've been talking about it, Murph and I both, about what exactly this means. And whenever I first wrote an article, I said, hey, there'll be more to come with this, but we didn't really know exactly what else would be rolled out. So what we were able to share was, well, how do you get into Accountant or Business View? And one of those ways is whenever you have a QuickBooks account that you set up, one of the things that you can do on that setup is you can say, what am I? And if you put in there that you're the owner of the business, or your client puts in there that they're the owner of the business, then they're going to automatically get the business view. And there's a couple of things that are different there. One of them is going to be the terminology. So the terminology has changed, and some of the terms are a little simpler for them to understand. You know, we talk AP. Well, that doesn't really mean something to our clients all the time. You know, really accounts payable. And for them, it's going to say even something that's a little simpler for them to understand. So that's just an example. And there's previously there was a different way to turn it on, but now they've switched it over to being able to toggle over from your gear icon down to switch to business view. You can activate that there. One of the things that I'll tell you is that I do a lot of Zoom meetings, monthly meetings with my clients. And one day I was looking at my client's file with them, and they were sharing their screen. And I was like, your navigation bar is completely different. And for a few seconds, it threw me for a loop, because I was like, you have something that I don't have. And I'm wondering, how do I get that perspective? And what it was is they were able to see the cash flow center. So if I switch over here, whenever I was logged in to that client, I was able to see cash flow. Well, it was because they were in business view. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with my QuickBooks, because that's the thing I want to show you, is what it looks like that's different. So over here, if I go up to that gear icon, I can toggle over to switch to business view. And you're going to see my navigation bar is getting ready to change. And one of the things that's going to be added over here is cash flow. Well, this is one of my favorite QuickBooks Online features. So this is important. If you want to be able to use this and help your client with cash flow, then I would say switch over to business view. You can toggle back and forth. It really is, it's easy to do, and there's no harm in switching back and forth. But if I come over here and I click on cash flow, I can say join waitlist. But the thing that's going to be coming through here, so I've got several clients that already have this on, and so you can do a couple of different things. You can look at your planner, you can go over and you can put in these different types of accounts, so that way you can say, I want to be able to look at some projections. And so part of the thing that's enabled with the projections is it's able to see that you have reoccurring transactions that are set up for maybe AT&T Mobile, and you know every single month it's going to be about $350, or something like that. And so that reoccurring transaction is actually part of your cash flow projection. And whenever you look at it, we're in the sample file, so it's not active here, but whenever you're looking at a live client, these little dotted lines represent the projected cash flow in the future. So you can go in and you can edit it, you can change things, but I would make sure that whenever you're looking at a client file, toggle over there, click on the business view, go over to cash flow, and you should be able to join right away. If not, you can say join this wait list. But definitely worthwhile going over and toggling to your business view so you can see this. I'm going to toggle back, and you can see if you wanted to go and learn more about the business view, you could use that hyperlink to go see more. All right. Oh, and you can see bank feeds are now named transactions whenever you're looking at the business view. So a couple of different terminology differences. The other thing that is new is QuickBooks Online Amazon Business Purchase app. So we have the PayPal app that Intuit has actually created for us, and it works really, really well. It's a lot better. It's called Connected to PayPal. It's a whole lot better than the original app that was designed by PayPal. So Intuit came out and they said, all right, we want to create something that we know is going to work for our people. And every once in a while I have a hiccup with that app, but for the most part, PayPal app, Connect to PayPal app works really, really well. And what it allows you to do is it allows you to see the bank side of PayPal. So if they're getting deposits and then they're also using those deposits to pay for expenses, it works really well. Well, that's the same thing that's true for this new Amazon app. So your clients can use Amazon Business to make purchases, and it was really difficult to see previously. Well, now you can go and get the app. This is available in the App Center. I just took a screenshot of it, and you can connect this. And again, it's developed by Intuit. So it's bringing in the data like we want to see it. It updates 4 times a day. And if your clients are not using Amazon Business, well, then this is irrelevant to you. But if you've got clients who are using Amazon Business and you're having a difficult time getting those purchases inside of QuickBooks, this is a solution that you'll want to check into. And then I'm going to move on, unless Murph, do we have any questions that would be relevant? Okay, wait, I do have one here. So I'm going to go ahead and answer this. So Jamie was asking about the business view on a client and do not have the cash flow option on the left. So I would say that you definitely want to maybe clear your cache and cookies and try again, because you should have that. And if you're in business view, you should have that option. She's saying that she's in plus, or her client is in plus, but really it started off as maybe being an advanced feature, and then they decided to make it a anybody feature. So I can go ahead and say that that one is answered. Does Amazon account have to do business account, or does it have to be a Prime account? It's a business account. So the Prime account, to my knowledge, is not what it's designed for. So it's not going to work. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and move on for a second. And Jamie's saying that she's still having some issues. I would go ahead and say that I would contact Intuit, because that one's kind of an odd thing. All right, so looking at the 1099s and some printing tips. So whenever I'm thinking about getting ready for 1099 printing, some of you, it's January 20th, may be celebrating because you're finished. And then there's other people that are on the call that are like me, who got really, really bogged down in some of the legislation that was passed on December 27th, and have had a hard time making sure that some of our normal tasks that would be done by now are completely wrapped up. So these are some tips that would help you if you have not yet finished your 1099s. So one of the things that we have now is we have a brand new 1099 option, which is the NEC, so non-employee compensation. So this brand new 1099 form is going to replace a lot of the previous 1099 miscellaneous forms. So if you've got somebody who's a non-employee and have been compensated, then they are probably going to land inside of this NEC form. And I'm going to flip over and just show you a couple of tips here. So I listed several of these tips. So people who are looking at this going, oh, I haven't learned much about that. These are all little hyperlinks, so you'll have access to this PDF form so you could follow along. And there's also an article that I wrote for Insightful Accountant that you could go and look at these tips. So what's the differences in the forms? These are direct links to the IRS, so you can see exactly what the legislation is and what our ruling is on these different types of 1099 forms. And then we also have the 1099K, and you can follow along with those. And then we also have a tip here that tells us that some 1099s are going to be paid via credit cards or debit cards or third-party systems. And so those 1099s are not going to be calculated in your totals for processing in QuickBooks. And the reason is that whatever the financial institution is that you used, they'll be reporting those for you. Now, there is a disclaimer here that there's some people who are making payments either through their bank or they're making payments through QuickBooks. And so you can contract your e-payments through QuickBooks. And if you're in question on whether or not your bank or QuickBooks is going to do it, I would say reach out to your provider. A lot of the banks, if you don't meet a certain threshold, you're going to have to print those yourself. And then with QuickBooks, they just, I think, from what I understand right now, you have to kind of nudge them to make sure that they're sending those out. And then, so what about, these excluded payments? How do you make sure that you can verify that they've been excluded correctly? And one of the things that you can do is, here's some steps on how to go through and find these excluded payments by vendor. And so this is an actual report that you can go and you can look at. I put in here the URL link so that way you could go and find out what exactly is included or not included. And in fact, let me see if I've still got it pulled up right here. Okay, yeah, so here's that link. I went ahead and saved it so that way I could show it live. And this is going to tell you which forms. Oh, I think it's another link. It's not this one, it's the other one that I put in the PowerPoint. So there's some hints there that tell you which types of payments are going to be excluded in QuickBooks and how QuickBooks is able to determine how they've been paid. And so one of the things that you can put in there is a ACH. If you put in ACH where the check number goes, QuickBooks is going to know that is been paid electronically, and so it will not include that inside of your 1099s. So if you paid it through the bank, paid a vendor with ACH via your bank, and your bank is not going to issue a 1099, and it's not popping up on your 1099 list, then I would go back and I would run this report and I would look and see, did some of them get excluded and you need to re-include them? And so maybe you need to make a change to that check field so that way you can clear it so they'll populate on your 1099 reports and you can process them. And then I went ahead and threw this in here. This is also tips for if you're working with desktop clients. Same thing. QuickBooks is going to recognize e-payments via a couple of different codes. I think if you put in ePay or ACH, there's a couple of different fields that you can put in that check number area that will exclude those types of payments. If you put in their PayPal, or if it knows that PayPal is the bank account that's used, or if it knows that you used a credit card, it's going to automatically exclude those. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and move on unless we have a direct question to the ACH. Why would they not include the ACH? It's not a credit card. Again, it's some financial institutions are going to mail out those 1099s directly. There's some directive that's on the IRS website that you could go and you could find out some more and read more about it, but it's pretty in depth and there's a lot of exclusions there. What the IRS, what my guess is what they're trying to do is make sure that the most 1099 details are reported as possible. So that means that you're going to have to really pay attention to, did somebody get accidentally excluded that should be included? So great question. And then Murph is already, it looks like he's typing an answer, so I'm going to leave that one alone. And then again, the same thing. So another ACH question by Vanessa. And then what about Venmo and Zelle payments? So Will, you asked a really great, valid question, and I agree with you that Venmo and Zelle payments are both going to be payments that are electronic, and so they should offer some type of 1099 reporting, or it happens automatically. But I would contact both of them because I have not done that yet. So I don't know what the answer would be, but that does definitely affect a lot of our clients. More and more of them are using Zelle and Venmo. Okay, so I don't see any more questions. I'm gonna move on. So QuickBooks Online Advanced Smart Invoicing. So this is a feature that is just for advanced users. So QuickBooks Online Advanced, not that you are an advanced user, but it's the advanced version of QuickBooks Online. I wish that we had got to weigh in on the name of it. So that way we wouldn't have advanced used in multiple areas. But the way that this works is whenever you're invoicing inside of QuickBooks, you have AI that's attached to QuickBooks, and it has been for a while. And really, we think of AI as being all kinds of different technologies that have been incorporated into our world. And whenever you ask Alexa, what's the weather? Well, that's AI. Whenever you talk to your phone, well, a lot of that is AI and machine learning that's happening. Well, that's being incorporated inside of QuickBooks as well. And so what happens whenever you're inside of QuickBooks Online Advanced and you're starting to enter in some invoices, one of the things that'll pop up is it'll say, hey, you normally, for this particular customer, you normally have a quantity of 20 in here or 200 here. And then if you go through and you say, oh, I'm going to change that, the AI is going to populate down here. You can see this new little icon. That's going to populate, and it's going to highlight what it thinks should be a change. And you can come down here and you can see, oh, I have a typo. I really meant 20. So 200 is a typo. Or you can ignore it because this is the correct order quantity, and so you can move on. But that's what's happening here with QuickBooks Online Advanced, is they've got this AI that is saying, last time you invoice this person, this is what happened. Is that what you want to do again? So that one's pretty straightforward. And then we also have this new QuickBooks Online Advanced reclassification tool. And I am going to be honest with you here. I'm a little bit hazy on this one. There's a couple of different things that I've seen in conversations. So I'll share with you. This is an image. It's not a great image, but this is going over into your, you can say plus new. Let's see, can I do it? Can I do it right here? This may or may not allow me to do it. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say I'm going to go to this sandbox that's a QuickBooks Online Advanced sample company. And you can go to your plus new. And the thing that you can do here is batch transactions. There's a couple of features here that you can do in bulk. So this is where I was saying, if you wanted to say invoices, you wanted to come over here and you wanted to say modify, it's going to populate several different invoices. You could come over here and you could grab several of them and you could say, I want to edit them. The other thing, I'm going to exclude this for a second, is you could say, I want to reclassify these transactions. And so it's going to take you directly over into this link here. So you have a couple of different things that you can do in bulk there. So that was my call out there, is that batch actions in QuickBooks Online Advanced has a couple of different options there. And then once you're in here, of course, the same thing is true as in previous years. We can say, okay, well, here's my transactions. I want to reclassify all of these, and so I can change the account. And this isn't new. And then you can add in the classes if you wanted to do classes. I'm going to cancel because this is a test account that a lot of us trainers use, so I don't want to muck it up. But I don't know if you've been using the filter. So one of the things I do on my search is I do actually come up here and I use my filter if there's things that I want to find, or I'll come over here and I'll say, for my clients who have not put in a class consistently inside of their QuickBooks, I'll come over there and I'll select that no class selected for those transactions. And I'll just make sure that I clear anything that is remaining. So you could say all, and you could say find those transactions. So any transaction that doesn't have a class associated with it, you could come through and you could add a class. So that's pretty cool. I'm going to get back over here, whoops, into my dashboard, and then I'm going to switch back over here to the presentation and advance to the next slide. So one of the things here is QuickBooks Online Accountant, and this is the subscription invoicing. So this is QBOA as in accountant. Really, really cool, wonderful, wonderful new feature. Being able to go through and look at your billing, if you are an accountant or bookkeeper who offers wholesale billing, oh my gosh, this has been yuck for years. And so up until now, you had your invoicing that was for the QuickBooks Online subscription, and then you had a separate invoice for the payroll piece. So what has now happened is those are merged by client name now. So you'll have both the subscription, total dollars, and then you're going to have the payroll subscription, total dollars. And so you're able to see the actual total by client, which is yay. And then the other thing that you're going to see here is you've got information about the discount ending. So this client had a special rate of $5. This is one of those lucky people early on that got those 5 for 5s. So now it's telling us that in January, tomorrow, this is going to be discontinued. So they're going to be paying the full subscription price, except for they'll pay the full subscription price at the wholesale billing rate. So for them, the plus would be $35. I don't see any questions here. Murph, are there any questions, or should I just move on?
You can move on.
Okay, cool. Well, this one, I expected like party signs inside of our chat because this is like a huge yay. We struggle with this every single month. In fact, it's one of the reasons why I decided I didn't even want to offer wholesale billing, because trying to track it is awful and in too many different places. So it just gets to be really, really messy. So this one thrills me. Oh, okay, so payroll. Payroll has several new features. So we know that there's the 3 new subscription offerings. So our new lineup is Core, Premium, and Elite Payroll. And all 3 of them have this new feature that's called Auto Payroll. And what Auto Payroll means is that if you've got a client who has payroll with a set standard of, for example, 40 hours every single week for all employees, or maybe their salary, and so you don't even have to worry about hours, then you can set that client up on Auto Payroll, and it's going to automatically pay your employees. So this is one of those true automation features, which is fabulous. And it's also make sure you're paying attention, because if you have an employee who leaves and they're on auto pay, they will get paid, because QuickBooks does not know that that employee has left the business unless you tell it. And so you can make edits to it. It's really easy to go and make a modification, either a one-time modification or a reoccurring. So that's something that you can do. There's a really nice article that I wrote for Insightful Accountant all about this auto payroll feature. So what happens is once you have one payroll that has been ran for your client, then or they do themselves, then what they can do is they can opt into auto payroll, and it will use the dollars from their last paycheck. So if their salary, fantastic, it'll make it really easy to process. There's a couple of things to be aware of whenever you are processing auto payroll, is that they cannot have any type of timesheets. So if they're using T-sheets, they're using timesheets, they are not going to be eligible for auto payroll, because again, remember, this is not hour dependent. This is from prior history dependent. And so it's going to use those default hours. It is not going to pull in timesheets. And every single employee needs to be on the same pay schedule. So if you've got 2 employees that are paid every Friday, and then you've got an owner who's paid monthly, then you would not be eligible for auto payroll. It's truly designed for an automation for some simple set it and forget it type of payroll. Really, really nice feature for some of those businesses who just have maybe just the owner on payroll. So that would be really, really perfect for this. No extra fee. It's just a additional feature that they've added into these new subscription levels for the core, premium, and elite. So I see Allison has asked a question about T-sheets. So it's saying, can you use T-sheets for just the owner? And again, T-sheets is time tracking. So that's going to not be part of these default hours. And so I'm going to say that no, really, Allison, I would not think that they would be a good candidate for this unless they have a standard salary wage and that they're being paid. And then yes, then it would work. Let's go ahead and move on. So some more payroll stuff. So when I'm thinking about payroll and activities for year end, this is, what a lot of us have already done or are doing is going through and reviewing all of the information for our payroll, making sure that that final payroll that was ran was correct, and then making sure that our employees have access to their W-2s via Workforce. And if you have not yet added employees via Workforce, there's a really nice ability to add them in bulk. And so if you're on your employee tab that's inside of QuickBooks Online Payroll, you can actually check the box to select all employees, and as long as there's an email address in there, you can send out all of those invites in a bulk. And the other thing that you can do is you can also make sure that they've accepted it. So it will say invited or it will say accepted, just like with users inside of QuickBooks Online. So it's very clear and visible if you've got employees that have accepted those invites or have just haven't done it yet. And so this is just kind of telling you a little bit more about, what are some of those steps that you want to do for year end. And, one of the things that should have already happened, but if it hasn't happened yet, you want to make sure that you change your SUI rate. So per state, did you get a new rate? I know that in the state of Oklahoma, across the board, everybody's rates increased. So previously it was set at $1 or a 1% amount, and now it's at a higher percentage rate. I don't know if every state has done that. I don't process payroll in every state, so you probably want to look with your state to make sure that the rate has been updated in QuickBooks. And even with these new subscription levels, you need to go in and change your rate to make sure that you've got that updated. And when we're talking about printing our W-2s, I know a lot of people are really, really ready to have those out and done. So if you're inside of one of these new subscriptions, core, premium, or elite, your W-2s will be processed electronically. That will happen. You do not have to process those. It's an automated feature. It does it automatically as long as you are enrolled in the auto taxes and forms. You have to unenroll. Everybody is enrolled by default in that feature, so the automation takes place. And this is QuickBooks is going to have all of those W-2s mailed out by January 31st. And then I've noticed that my W-2s are available to print, so they're all ready now. You can go over into those forms area and you can print those W-2s if you wanted to send a copy over to your employer, or if your employer wants to make sure that the employees receive those prior to January 31st, you can actually go and print those forms directly. And then there's also a couple of extra things to do. So PPP and year end, this has been this. I don't even know what to say other than, boy, I can definitely tell that when they passed this new law about our packages, that they weren't thinking about accountants, because this has created a whole lot of extra work for us. So there's several things that you can do at year end to make sure that you're ready for processing any PPPs that you need to do. And the thing that I would say is make sure that you're going over into that month-end review and going through those steps. I really, really like this. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what I'm talking about here. So month-end review. If I come over into my month-end review, I can see all of my transactions that are missing a payee, or I can see, ooh, I've got some stuff here that's in uncategorized. Well, I know that that doesn't belong there. So I can go and I can make any of those changes that I need to. And the reason that this is tied to any year-end tasks is, and PPP, is some of those clients are trying hard to get this second round of PPP funding, but their bookkeeping for 2020 isn't finished. So this is a nice tool to go in and see, have all of these actions taken place. And so you can go in there and you can actually edit this, and you can say which tasks are done, and then you can make changes as needed. And you can see at a glance which accounts have been reconciled. And then you can also do this final review. And I'm going to show you one of the things that we do inside of our firm that I think it's pretty cool. So I'll share it with you because this is year end and it's QuickBooks. And so it feels like it'd be a nice tip to share. So if I come down here to my final review, you've got reports that are available. Well, there's a couple of default reports, and it's these two, the balance sheet and the profit and loss. And then you can add in any additional reports that you want to have visible. So I added in Ask Accountant. And what I did was I started with a profit and loss, and then I filtered down to Ask Accountant for all time periods. So I did not just want to have a particular date threshold. So it's all dates. I'm going to open that. I'm going to show you what it is that I do. So here it is right here. And here's this report that I want to run. And I'll show you, this is my cool little thing that I enjoy doing. So if I say, and I'm in QuickBooks Online-Advanced, so I want to point that out. I can export right here to Google Sheets. So whenever Google Sheets pops up the first time, it's going to ask you to make sure that you put in your verification code. So I'm putting that in right now. And then you go through a couple of steps to connect the two, QuickBooks Online and your Google account. And then now up pops my Google Sheet. Well, what's really awesome about this Google Sheet is I can share this directly with my clients. So I don't have to do several different steps in order to send this over. I do clean it up just a little bit because I don't think that this column is irrelevant to my clients. So I say, okay, I'm going to delete it. We know that these are all irrelevant. We know this split is irrelevant, and then this balance is irrelevant. So I'm going to delete that one. And then they don't care about balance. So I put in here who and what. And then I send this over to my client and they fill this out. But what I do here in order to make sure that I've got it handy and everybody inside of the team can see it is I save it. So whenever I share it with my client, I hit share. And then I save it. So the place that I save it is inside of a folder on my browser bar because I'm using QuickBooks Online with Chrome. And so I can come over here and here's my folder for client questions. And then I can come over here and I can say, here's my out of the box. But if I wanted to save this Google Sheet, I did that whenever I was talking. I can come over here and I can save it inside of that folder. What this means is every single month or every single year end, I can send this over to my client. Well, that also means that everybody inside of the team knows whenever they've done something to the Google Doc. I know whenever they've done something to Google Doc. And then I come down here and I say, all right, we're going to rename this, and this is going to be my archive. So I can put in here that these are resolved or archived, however you want to put it in there. And then over here, what I do is I rename this to current. So once this is answered, so your client came through and they said, oh, this was for maybe permits. All right, so they answer that. It's been updated in QuickBooks. And so then I take this entire group and I move it over here to the resolved. And then you can put over here, you can say year in 2020. So what that means is the very next month, you could come over here and you could say, here's the same Google Sheet, and you can share it over and over again with your clients. So that's my little 2 cents trick right there. I like it because it keeps everybody in the same place. It feels like my clients, whenever they have to actually download an Excel sheet and upload an Excel sheet, they just don't always do it. But I get really great responses in Google Sheets. So if your clients are like mine, they really like Google and using it, then that's a really good tip. So let me get back over here and I will share the other stuff that's going on. So Murph, I'm going to go ahead and keep my slide up, but do you want to go ahead and talk about the sunset of QuickBooks 2018?
Sure. So this is to remind everybody who has desktop clients that if you've got people still on 2018, that come May 31, that product's going to be sunset by Intuit, which means that they will no longer support it. And that means that 2018 Pro and Premier, 2018 Accountant, 2018 Enterprise will no longer be getting updates, but more importantly, it will no longer be eligible for any online services that are connected. So they won't be able to use payments that were connected. They won't be able to use online banking. They won't be able to use anything that's connected, payroll, etc. And so they are either going to be dead in the water, even though the product itself will continue to run, or they're going to have to upgrade. And of course, that's what sunsetting really is all about. And Liz, you want to go ahead and advance the slide? And so we've got desktop user, and you can advance one more. Yeah. Intuit has imposed user management requiring administrators of desktop to either log into or to secure Intuit accounts. The QuickBooks Company File Administrator has to sign into or create an Intuit account to be associated with every company file. The company file administrator is also required to make sure that they log in to their Intuit account every 180 days to maintain that association between the file and their Intuit account. Now, in the most recent product updates, administrators are now eligible to create a new user ID, and they can, in fact, request a secondary administrator at the Intuit account role. And users can also send a request to the master administrator to become part of the company file when it's being set up. I had a problem the other day in which I had a company file that had not been used in a long time. And when I tried to associate it with my account, Intuit account, I couldn't get it to work. And I wound up having to go this route and finally got it done. And it actually is kind of through the back door. So it's kind of a unusual process, but all of these changes are designed to ensure extra security, and it has to do with the relationship between the product owner and the file and the product itself. And that's necessary as the number of people who are indirectly accessing the file through third-party apps. As the number of those apps are being expanded that connect to the file, not directly through the file, but through Intuit's logins, they wanted to make sure that there was a valid source of security. And so it's very well explained in Laura Madeir's article, and you'll see that reference down here. It's in the QuickBooks blog. And if you go out the QuickBooks blog, you'll find it. Intuit account, why now for QuickBooks Desktop, as I said in the QuickBooks blog. So Liz, you can go ahead and move on to the next slide. And I also posted this because if you're not aware, in the Firm of the Future blog, they mentioned the fact that QuickBooks Live is now offering a new cleanup service. That's an expansion of what they had been doing. And the purpose is to essentially offer a one-time service as opposed to an ongoing type service. It was intended so that people who hadn't ever had any kind of professional assistance could get their files cleaned up in preparation for tax. And that's really what it's about. Of course, a lot of ProAdvisors provide the same functionality, but Intuit is providing this through their QuickBooks Live service as a one-time or pay-per-use or lump sum kind of activity. And so we wanted to make you aware of that. And Liz, if you'll go on. Okay. And there are a whole slew of new, you might advance one more. There are a whole slew of new training opportunities in your QBO ProAdvisor training center. And that includes QuickBooks Online training and certification. There is a new QBO training. It came out at the 1st of November or just after the 1st of November. And it is different than the one that was made available last year. It's been updated. And I don't know, Liz, do you want to speak to that?
Oh, sorry, I was answering questions. So what was the question?
I said, do you want to speak do you want to speak as to any of the enhancements or improvements to the recent QBO training?
Oh, well, so yes, I'd love to. I was able to be part of the certification training exam this year. So for the last year, there's a team of us that we've been working on the certification, and the certification is now rolled out. There's lots of training that you can go through, and you can work on each module. There's a ton of webinars that are being offered at this time. So if you go through the self-paced and you say, hey, I really would love to do a webinar, I would definitely encourage you to join those webinars. There's additional resources that are handed out in the webinar that are not handed out in the self-paced. And the reason is, previously when we went and traveled around live to teach certification classes, there was handouts that you got because they knew that you weren't going to see any type of visuals or have documentation because you were in a live webinar. You weren't doing the self-paced and had resources at your fingertips. And that's still true with the webinar. So if you have a section of the test that you're having a hard time passing, I would recommend going to the webinar and making sure that you get those additional handouts, resources that are available. You mean advance to the next one?
Sure.
There we go. So this is the same thing. You've got QuickBooks Online Advanced training that is now available. So you can go over into your training inside of your QuickBooks Online accountant dashboard, and you can sign up for these additional trainings that are being offered. And of course, there's the self-paced, and again, there's also the webinar. And I think it's key to have those handouts whenever you're taking the advanced certification test. I've heard most people say that they don't think they could have passed it without those handouts, or that it was much more difficult to pass without the handouts. And you only get those in either a live training, which they're not taking place right now, or in one of the webinars. So you can go out, if you want to get signed up, you can go out either to QuickBooksTrainingEvents.com, or you can go inside of your training portal inside of your QBOA and sign up for those. Then I would say there's also advanced specialty training. And so with this advanced specialty training, there's a large amount of people who are asking about reports, how to be able to handle a lot of different scenarios. And so this breaks it down into several different segments. And so there's 4 different modules for you to be able to take. If you're somebody who needs CPE credit, that's also available in any of the Intuit training that's provided. And so you can really get more hands-on and understanding of the various types of training that's offered. And then the 2021 desktop certification is now out. So the training, I definitely recommend going and taking the training. There's 2 different sections here, and you can see that this one is offered at self-paced, and you can go through and find the what's new that's happening inside of QuickBooks Desktop. And again, QuickBooks Online is being rolled out all the time. QuickBooks Desktop gets rolled out in chunks. So you want to make sure that you are up to date on all of the changes for QuickBooks Desktop 2021. And then we also have a change of the Intuit Account Business Leader. So we previously had Rij that was our leader, and she is now going to be taking on a different role inside of Intuit. So she's still staying there. She's just going to move positions. And so she'll be in the QuickBooks ecosystem and working on some of the live products. And then you have Ted. So Ted is our new, Callahan is our new lead for the accountant business leader. So essentially, if we go to a training event live somewhere, we will probably get to meet Ted. Is there anything else that you want to add about Ted, Murph? I have not met him.
Well, I noticed today that Joe had conducted an interview with him that is available in the Woodard report.
Ah, fantastic. Okay. So there's more information. And then I will mute myself so you can talk about the ProAdvisor program.
And once again, yes, as a part of getting ready, if you're not already nominated or you've not already nominated yourself for the 2021 Top 100 or ProAdvisor of the Year, I encourage you to do that. And folks, I cannot stress again, there's absolutely nothing wrong with you nominating yourself. I have a lot of people every year. You would not believe how many people write to me or email or call me up and they go, well, I missed the nomination because so-and-so was supposed to nominate me and they got busy and forgot to nominate me. And now I'm not in the nominations. And I have to say, well, I'm sorry. I can't do anything about it. You missed the deadline. The only way to guarantee that you're nominated is to nominate yourself. And there's nothing wrong with nominating yourself. But the next step after you've been nominated or you've nominated yourself and you're qualified is you have to complete our formal application. Now, if you went through the process last year, you're going to be able to do the short form this year. But otherwise, you're going to go through and complete the entire application. And a lot of people like to do that anyway because so many things change in their their practice in what they're doing. And I encourage you again to read this series of articles that goes along with this webinar. But we've put up the link to this webinar that ADP is sponsoring. I encourage you to attend because this webinar is going to help to prepare you to fill out that formal application, as are the 4 articles that I started publishing last Wednesday. The second one was published today. Each of the next 2 Wednesdays, there'll be articles that help you complete the application form in order to maximize your scoring potential. So remember, this is an objective-based system, and there's no subjectivity to it. A lot of people say, oh, they just pick whoever they want. No, that's not true. It's all objective. And so, again, I'm trying to give you some keys or some tips, or as ADP puts it, secrets to becoming a top 100 pro advisor. And Liz, if you'll change, we'll show people about next month on February 17th. Kelly G will be joining me and we'll talk about the quarterly app neighborhood watch. We'll have some of our favorite apps and some new apps and try to give you some info about that. And then one more slide will tell you where you can go to get view this recording and also download a copy of the handout in a day or 2. And later also, you'll be getting an email from Emily, and that'll give you links and info about today's webinar. So I want to thank everybody for being here. And I especially want to thank Liz for doing all the work and giving out all the info.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And with that, I'll just tell everyone goodbye, and I'll hope to see you all next month at QB Talks when we have our app neighborhood watch.
Thank you guys. Murph, Liz, thank you so much. Everyone, have a great day. We'll see you next month.